Well, let's return now to the Labor caucus meeting today and its decision on the front bench. The portfolios will now be allocated by the leader, Anthony Albanese. He won't make that announcement until Sunday at the earliest. But today the leadership team was confirmed, and as we saw, Christina Keneally becomes the Deputy Senate Leader for Labor. Her elevation to the front bench only possible after yesterday's move from Ed Husic, also from the New South Wales right of the party, to step off the front bench to make way for Christina Keneally. Ed Husic joins me now. Thanks very much for your time this afternoon.
Thanks, David.
Just to be clear on this was Anthony Albanese's decision that he wanted Christina Keneally on the front bench, right? So what happened then? Did you talk to him at all?
No, I think we were very aware that the leader wanted to have a makeup of a team that included people that he particularly valued their talents and what contribution they could make.
But did he specifically say, I want Christina Keneally?
No, I think he made it. Well, I think he made it very clear publicly that he wanted that. The New South Wales right, having grown up in ALP politics since my teenage years, we do have a responsibility to back in the leader and help where we can, and we needed to do that. I was very conscious we just couldn't have a situation. It's just impossible to consider a situation where a former Premier like Christina, with the talents and the skills that she has, sit on the backbench. We needed to make a decision with respect to her, but we also needed to obviously diversify the New South Wales rights crew and team on the front bench. And I just think it's the right decision to make.
Did you have a phone hookup, a WhatsApp discussion, anything like that with the rest of the crew?
I screenshotted all those for you, David, and we can show those later in the show.
I mean, I'm just wondering how nothing.
I just talked with. Look, to be honest,
because there are six positions, right, for the New South Wales right on the front bench. Why is it you who goes?
Well, let me be frank with you. I had a conversation. I was driving down yesterday to Canberra early in the morning, and had a conversation with a very good friend of mine, Chris Bowen, who you may know, and name ring a bell. And I did say to him, look, we could go through this. We win, we still lose, in the sense that we can go through the ballot, be victorious in seeing the people that were already there come back, but really you can't have a former Premier. To be absolutely clear, you can't have a former Premier sitting on the backbench that way. We need particularly to utilise Christina's talents in the Senate, and I just said, like, why don't we just bite the bullet here, make the decision to bring her forward, make sure that again we have a strong team in the Senate. And then at some point down the track, I would love to be in the position to be considered to return.
So you said I'm willing to, take one here. And what did he say?
I don't think he was very keen on this idea initially, because as a friend, he wanted to, and he's always been supportive of me. But I think this is one where we need to make a team decision, and it is about, as Anthony has said today, across the Labor caucus, people that want to do the right thing in the aftermath of the election loss that we've had to experience. To be able to unify and get on with the job, you should understand people's determination to make sure that happens.
But to be clear, when you've raised this with Chris Bowen on the phone, he didn't say, no, mate, you stay, I'll go.
No, it wasn't that. Well, no, and he shouldn't, quite frankly. I mean, Chris Bowen should not go. Chris Bowen has a contribution to make, as so many on our front bench do. But I just think it's one of those decisions. You have to make a team decision, and that's the one that I made. And
did you talk to Christina Keneally before you made the...
Of course, I let her know what I wanted to do. She was very grateful. I mean, the thing about Christina and I, we haven't just been friends or colleagues, but we've been friends for many years. And our families are friends too. We're very tight. And
did you try and change your mind?
Of course. Like, she didn't want to see me make the decision to leave, but she's been very grateful for that support. And, she and I... it was going to be difficult leading into the vote, and I had difficult conversations with her in reference to what might happen through the course of the vote. But this is where a lot of people go. Politics is all about the I and not the team. This is one I would like people to know, that the team does operate in a way that tries to ensure that we have that stability and unity.
So where does it leave you for the rest of this parliamentary term? What are you going to do now that you've left the front bench? You'll be on the back bench.
I was very grateful for the swing I got to me in the 2016 election, and not so, how can I put it, comfortable about the swing I saw where the bulk of that
What
left.
was the swing for you?
Just over 6.5%.
Right. And why do you think that happened?
It's a very good question. It's one I'm very keen to find out what we do.
You don't have an immediate gut feel on what happened?
No, I think, Tanya Plibersek in the caucus today, I don't want to necessarily go to all the ins and outs of what's said in caucus, did make a very important observation about the need for us to consider carefully what may have been the reasons for why people who normally vote Labor couldn't bring themselves to do it this time. And I think, importantly, to Anthony Albanese's view about us, hastening slowly, like take the time to think through stuff is important. I think we do need to have a three-step plan, which is listen, think and act. We've got to listen to why people couldn't bring themselves to vote Labor this time. Consider that in terms of the way we develop policies and act on that. And in my area, I need to go back into heartland areas, like traditional areas that swung against me, and I need to, basically listen to people as to why they felt they couldn't vote.
So you want to dedicate a bit of time this term to listening to Western Sydney?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's going to be important, well, particularly in Western Sydney, but realising regional communities are different and all that.
Anthony Albanese is talking already about the franking credits policy. He talked about someone he met who was, getting a bit of money, certainly wasn't wealthy, but felt like Labor was targeting him. In your electorate, are there a lot of people getting cash refunds from franking credits? Was it a big deal there?
Well, there were some, and they let me know how unhappy they were, and it was expected. I understood that. And I said, look, I respect that you're not going to support us on the basis of our policy. That's, and I understand the way that people will make their decisions. There have been some interesting observations in the aftermath of the election, and it reminds me why Tanya Plibersek's advice about, thinking carefully about what's being attributed to causes. I think that's a valuable piece of advice. A lot of people are saying, Labor needs to think about aspirational voters and needs to give something for those voters. I've got a lot of new residential growth in my part of Western Sydney, about 150,000 people expected to move in. And, a lot of them, those new estates, are jam-packed with aspiration. I was very grateful for the higher level of support I got in those areas.
Right.
To be brutally honest with you, I made a miscalculation. I believed that the policies that we were taking forward, particularly around schools and hospitals and infrastructure, that appealed to what I believe traditional Labor voters, would sustain me. And I did a lot of work in new estate areas, and I didn't pay enough attention to listening to traditional heartland areas within my seat. And I do need to reconnect with that. I know that within Australian politics, you're never supposed to admit error or wrong, but frankly, that is not the way we are going to improve. We need to listen carefully to what people have said and learn, think and act.
What about some of the migrant communities in your seat? This issue about Labor's position on people of faith has emerged post-election. Yeah. Do you think that was a factor?
I do think it was. I think Chris Bowen was absolutely right. A number of us in Western Sydney across faction, regardless of faction, have been talking about this. There was a bit of a wildfire going on over the issue of abortion, which caught me by surprise.
This was Labor's pre-election announcement that you'd make abortion available in public hospitals.
Yeah, and it was policy that thought through about how people in need could get access, the right health care, the right access in a timely way. But it was being used by some people. It was being manipulated and quite the wrong position being put forward.
What was that position, the wrong position being put
forward? The wrong
forward?
position being suggesting that in some cases that we were advocating for abortion in the third trimester. It's just wrong. It wasn't about advocacy, it was providing support for people who needed it. And
you reckon this cost you votes?
I think there were some people that had been had this information put before them. Again, we need to listen to how people made their views known. I do think we need to reach an armistice of sorts on fake news. I understand people in the Liberal Party very upset with what they believed we campaigned around on Medicare, right? And they've taken that and said, we'll see you and raise you. I think they get to a point, particularly with major political parties, that if we want to be taken seriously in the electorate and the stuff that we're putting forward is being taken credibly, I think we do need to reach an armistice on this and understand that politics will be better through a better informed public. And we, and don't get me wrong, I mean, there have been things that have happened in the past. I don't want to be naive about this, but really we're going to get to a point where social media and tech platforms will be able to see something that may have only been in one pocket be spread out around a much larger populace. We've got to do differently.
Ed Husic, we look forward to talking to you more as a backbencher anyway over the course of the coming term.
Thank you very much
this afternoon.